The final award tonight will be given to an individual with a significant and profound role in the inclusion of different voices being amplified in media. The Media Luminary Award, presented by Hilton, is saluting the dynamic career of Ms. Paula Madison. Ms. Paula Williams Madison is the chairman and CEO of Madison Media Management LLC, 88 Madison Media Works Incorporated. Madison is also an author and executive producer, respectively, of the book and documentary Finding Samuel Lowe, which tells her successful search to locate her Chinese grandfather and descendants in China. Please take a look at this dynamic innovator, Ms. Paula Madison.
I was inspired to work in the television news industry.
Driven by high expectations, Paula Madison, a mixed-race daughter of immigrant parents, engineered an extraordinary media career. Television journalist, vice president, news director, and the first executive vice president of diversity in the history of NBC Universal. After her pioneering achievements, Paula set her sights on expanding opportunities for others as a Black business owner.
We have the Africa Channel, which is a cable network that shows programming about people of the African diaspora.
And in documenting her own diaspora, Paula achieved her lifelong goal.
Thanks to my journalism training and some good fortune, I found my family.
Held in high esteem.
She's somebody I have enormous respect for, and you have done an amazing job.
She is a woman of passion, inclusion, legacy, and other hidden talents. My mother, Paula Madison.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a member of the Academy of Arts and Sciences, CEO of Liquid Soul, to introduce Mr. Tyrell Whitley.
So I am so pleased to be here, and let's talk a second about a luminary. Someone that inspires, that uplifts, that is a guiding light. I believe Paula has been that for many of you in the room, whether you were an intern, whether you were watching her rise the corporate ladder at various newsrooms, whether you were hired or fired, you had the chance and the opportunity to experience Paula, and that's the special part, is the experience. I too have been through that process of engagement, and it is so special to me because 10 years ago, Comcast came together with NBC Universal, and Paula, along with some other folks, put together an MOU, and that MOU was put in place to allow a minority-owned agency to come and represent this new entity and to focus on making sure media allotment was done to Black-owned and Black-targeted outlets. My agency, Liquid Soul, at the time, this was 10 years ago, we walked in the room. I don't think we were the biggest. I don't necessarily know if we were the best, but I do know that when we walked in the room, we left everything on the table. We poured everything out of us to get that deal. And as it would be, we did win that account. One of the first meetings that I had to have after winning the account was to meet with Ms. Paula Madison. She structured the deal, she put it together, and she wanted to meet the people that won it. I don't think Paula knew of me. I did know of her. And so my business partner and I were nervous. We were a little concerned because the call came from Deb Langford. And Deb Langford, if you do know Deb, was very animated in saying, look, Paula Madison wants to meet with you. And all types of fears rose up in us as to where this was going to go. Well, the amazing thing is we walked into the room and Paula greeted us, and we sat down and prepared, and we had all of our documents and all of our preparation was out in front of us to engage with her. And she said, hey, brothers, I just got this new Prince album. And so we gonna spend this meeting listening to Prince. And so we spent the entire 45 minutes listening to Prince. And I left that meeting feeling like this was the best meeting I've ever had. My confidence was high. I felt so good. I was like, look, Paula likes us. She brought us in to listen to Prince. Who does that? And from there, our relationship began to blossom. And again, as a luminary, while some people may inspire and you look up to and you look at them as a mentor, for us and for me, Paula was an angel. Again, as a black-owned business out of Atlanta, Georgia, we were small at the time. Since winning that deal, we've been able to hire hundreds and hundreds of young brown, black, Asian, mixed-race individuals to bring them into the world of advertising and media for film, television, and sports and corporate brands. Paula has been there along the way. I see Paula from time to time, whether it's at Sundance or in LA and New York, and she knows and I know that every time we see each other, there's kindred spirit and a kindred heart. And so it is with my absolute honor and pleasure to welcome our Media Luminary Award winner, Paula Madison.
Thank you. So first of all, of course, I would like to thank MMCA and David Morgan and all the people who had the vision to put together this organization, which has gathered us here today on the 6th occasion of commemorating and honoring those of us, people of color, who are in this business called the media. Before I go any farther, however, I'm going to do what I always do, which is there was a young sister outside who interviewed me who said she's a journalism student. And I said to her, when we get inside, come and find me. Is she in the room or did she leave? Because if you're in the room, stand up. No? Is she here? Because I said to her I was going to introduce her to a woman who I am very proud of. And very proud because 1967 was the first time I saw a black anchor on television in my hometown of New York. By the way, brother, I'm from Harlem. I just want to get that in there because we, New York City girls. And I was inspired back then because I didn't know that black people who looked like me could be on television, on the news, unless they were handcuffed behind their backs and their heads down, because that's how I always saw them back when I was a child. I wanted to introduce her to Rasheeda Jones, the new president of MSNBC. Stand up, Rasheeda, because you have to know why God put you on this planet. You need to understand what your role is. And my role, I believe, always has been to amplify the voices and the purpose for the disenfranchised, the people whose voices are robbed from them, the people who are presented in ways that don't get them good coverage, good business, good bookings and money, shoes like that. I admired his shoes. As soon as I walked up to him out there on the stepping, I was like, brother, those are some. There you go. And I want to have you all meet next the woman who first put into my head that I could be a journalist. We're talking, I'm 69 years old. We are saying, black don't crack, Asian don't raisin. And there is one other that I learned recently, which is called rice is nice. So all of that. LaFleur Paysor is over there. Stand up, LaFleur. When I was in college at Vassar College, LaFleur said to me, Paula, you should go to journalism school. You have a voice and you can write, and your perspective needs to be shared. So over there are some of my good people from Vassar College, my best friend from high school, Cardinal Spellman High School in New York City, the Bronx, Sherry Bellamy. There are people in here who are friends. There's a guy who came in tonight who was an editor when I was an assistant city editor at the Dallas Times-Herald, doesn't exist anymore, Frank Kaufman. There are people here, it's like from beginning, middle, and end of my life. It's like, ooh. What I want to say to you is, none of this is easy. It's always difficult. And keeping your sense about you and staying true to who you are is particularly difficult when you work in the kind of business that we're in, where representation equals and can equal economic prosperity. I'll tell you one story. Years ago, my husband and I pulled out money from our retirement fund to invest in a business that my oldest brother was starting under duress. He started an algorithmic trading company. We gave my brother 7 figures in order to help launch this company. 2 years later, it was capitalized at $500 million. I was working at NBC Universal. When the time came that I was named Chief Diversity Officer, I contacted the Corporation Counsel and asked if there was anything I needed to do, because now I'm becoming Chief Diversity Officer. At the time, I was President and General Manager of NBC4 in Los Angeles and the Regional General Manager for the 2 Telemundo TV stations that NBC owned in LA. He said, well, I'll send over a form, and I filled out the form. And I got a call. Can I come see you? Sure. Paula, you own all these things? Well, my family owns a bunch of stuff, which we bought from the proceeds of all of that. It looks like you're wealthy. I think you could say that. He said, well, but you're rich. Well, that's kind of what wealthy means. He said, well, how much are you worth? I said, now see, that I know you can't ask, right? He asked, well, why do you work? Why do you work? I responded. He said, well, I have, bills I got to pay. I got children in school. I got to pay for all of that. I said, my daughter's in medical school. I paid for all that stuff already. And I got bills, but I like to sit down and pay them right away, because I can pay them right away. He said, well, I don't understand. Well, why do you work? I said, because I like to work. What had just happened was it hit him that they had just named a wealthy black woman, also part Chinese, to Chief Diversity Officer for NBC Universal, meaning that I didn't need to work. And my mission was to bring more diversity into the company. So when this brother talks about he sat in my office for 45 minutes and I had him listening to Prince, because I'd already checked out his company, I knew he was going to get, and it was a significant contract, but it wasn't as significant as it needed to be, so I hounded them and made them give him a much bigger contract, and I didn't have one care as to whether I didn't have their support or a job afterwards, because I didn't need a job, right? So what am I saying here? I'm saying that we own the Africa Channel. We owned the Los Angeles Sparks. When I retired from NBC Universal, I ran the Sparks for like the first 4 years or something. And while sitting in China with my Chinese cousins, I sold the team to Magic Johnson, because that's how crap like that happens. I'm telling you these anecdotes so that, remembering back in 1967, when I was a sophomore in high school, and I saw Melba Toliver is her name. The first black female anchor, news anchor on the air in New York, Melba, she's still alive, Melba Toliver, who refused to wear a wig or straighten her hair. She went on the air with an afro. That inspired me to know that I'm going to have my voice, and how do I protect my standing? I have the money to not be afraid of you coming at me. So when people wonder, and I've had people ask me, well, how do you talk to them like that and you don't get fired? Fire? You got to have a good reason to fire. When I was president and general manager of NBC4 in Los Angeles, I set a personal goal. New York is a bigger market, a bigger station, and bigger profit. I'm from New York. I went to Los Angeles to run LA, and I made a personal goal that in 2 years I would beat New York in profitability, and I did. How do you become successful? How are you a legacy? Become necessary. Become necessary. You heard Harris talk earlier about it isn't necessarily about color, but it can be. It isn't necessarily about where you come from, but it can be. But here's what I will tell you works in the economics of the United States of America. Deliver to the bottom line. Don't embarrass the company. Be necessary. I am the person who was, when they gave me the goal of being #1 in profit in Los Angeles, I went back to the chairman of GE and said, not possible. Paula, you just got the job. How can it not be possible? Because we didn't count the Spanish language TV stations when we were determining that we needed NBC4 to be #1. You got to factor in that other market. So he said, well, what do we do? I said, well, I have a suggestion. So what I said, we got to buy Spanish language. And then we made the presentation to purchase Telemundo. And that is how NBC Universal became the owner of the Telemundo network. The thinking outside the box, don't show up with a problem. I can't make us #1 in profit in the Los Angeles market without a solution. Let's buy Spanish language. How does that happen? I am what I consider to be a blackety black woman, okay? I have had people say to me, but you don't look Chinese. Oh, let me just do this for a minute. My grandfather was Chinese, but you don't look Chinese. But tell me that I'm not Chinese and I might punch you in your face. Tell me that I'm not black, as somebody once said, that I'm not quite black enough. I'm that girl who grew up on welfare in Harlem, whose mother looked Chinese. You want to be really careful when you challenge me about the being of me. And what I am saying to you is that being successful in this day and time, in this country, in these media, if you don't have the fortitude, if you don't know who you are, sit down. And James Brown said, let a man come in, but I'd say, or let a woman come in. I want to thank you all very much for this award. I'm sharing these experiences from my life so that you know there is value in wealth, not just to walk around with adornments, but because it gives you a protection from fear, a certain kind of fear. It protects you from, I'm not scared of doing X, Y, and Z. I'm willing to be bold. I have had white men ask me, but I don't understand, where are you from? You're not like any black person I've ever met. I said, I'm like every black person you ever met. I'm not special, and I refuse to have you cast me as a unicorn or a magical Negro. We are not doing that. All that has to happen is right here and right here. Give voice to what's in your heart. If it's not working for you, pick up and go somewhere else. And as a Jamaican, as a Jamaican, I want to leave you all with this thought. My daddy, Jamaican, who was the first Black union shop steward for the United Auto Workers Aircraft Engines Division on Long Island, said to me years ago, if you work for a company long enough for them to give you a gold watch, I will be ashamed of you. Buy your own damn watch. That's one. Jamaican, here's two. The reason why we have 1 million jobs, it's called diversification. It's called multiple income streams. Jamaicans got a 4-bedroom house. You only need to sleep in 1 bedroom. You rent out the other 3. Mortgage is taken care of. I got on red-soled shoes. My walk-in closet is really a 12 by 16 room. And then they put all the stuff in it and it's a little smaller. But I didn't wear these shoes until I was wealthy. Why? Because the living below your means gives you the capital to give your brother 7 figures when he wants to start a business. Be clear about your goals. As my mother said, she didn't come to this country to remain poor. She came to this country so her children would be rich. It's an immigrant story, but for a Jamaican, as my father said, that man one day is not going to be enamored with you, and he may want to take your job away. Multiple income streams means that your mortgage is paid for. Buy your car outright. Or as I like to ask, what's the difference between a $300,000 car and a $30,000 car? $270,000. That's the difference. Why are you striving to buy a Bentley when you haven't figured out how to own whatever you own? Because Kias actually will get you where you need to go. So I'm saying, think about it. This is a correspondence organization, but do you really want to spend the rest of your life wondering if your contract's going to be renewed? Is that what you really want? Buy something, own the medium, put yourself on the air if that's what you want, but better to be in the corner office. And I want to say to you all in closing that I hope that everybody here, particularly people who didn't pay anything to get in, if you can put up that number again so folks can make a donation, because when young people come into this organization and get mentored, that means that years later, there's the me who can stand here and refer to the Melba Toliver from 1967. Tyrell, I love you. Thank you. It only took him saying, Paula, could you do this? Jeff Ballou, this brother, stand up, former president of the National Press Club. And there are people here who I have mentored and people who I probably will meet for the first time, but you saw Byron Allen up there? You see Byron? Back when I was president and general manager of NBC4 in Los Angeles, Byron came to my office, Paula, can we talk about getting one of my shows on the air? And I said, you're from here, you don't have a show on the air? He said, no station in Los Angeles has ever aired any of my shows. I said, all right, we're gonna work it out. I said, I only have a half hour after showtime at the Apollo. After Saturday Night Live, showtime at the Apollo, I have a half hour. I said, I can give you that. And it had ratings. He said, okay, we'll do a 50-50 barter split. So all the people in advertising, you know what that means, 50-50 barter split. I mean, he got half the deal, I get half the deal. I said, I said, I'll put you on the air, but it'll be 70-30, my favor. He looked at me, I said, I have a goal. I need to be number one in profitability. I can't do it 50-50. When I saw Byron 2 years ago at the Black Filmmaker Foundation Summit, and he was, oh, it's Paula Madison's my girl, nah, 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 nah. He said, yeah, she drove a hard bargain. And he told me, he said, but I love her and I will do whatever it takes. What I'm telling you is the story that this man told is the story you want people to tell about you. Yes, I have fired people, but because they didn't do a good job. I'm not playing favorites otherwise. It's got to be about quality and standards. But I want you to know that my first Lifetime Achievement Award I got when I was 42 from NABJ, and I was very upset. I was like, I haven't lived my lifetime yet. This one, I have been quarantined in my house for almost 2 years in Studio City. This is my first public outing, and I came because of what this organization means to me, to you, and to the future multicultural correspondents who are going to come after us. So please, do take out your phone, make a contribution, and let's create the next level of journalists and correspondents in our world. Thank you. Oh, I want to go out to Prince. And if you don't have Prince, I need to go out to James Brown. I'm waiting, because this brother already dissed you. All right, I'm good.
So